Wow. I have to put some.
It's an old house, you know? Creaky floors and all.
This is my car with everything in it on the starting line, the way I race it. That's with all steel brakes, 4 calipers in the rear. That's the lockup. Oh yeah, that's with a bead lock. It's a little heavier with a liner wheel. We haven't really ran those in a while. We got it down to 2740 at Idaho. That was with, we changed the front fuel cell from an 8-gallon to a 4-gallon. We ran half as much water in the water tank. We put carbon brakes with 1 set of calipers in the rear. And what else? Oh, carbon drive shaft. We don't have the carbon drive shaft in it right now. That was with bead locks. Oh, that was the Goodyear tire too. Remember? It was lighter. Yeah, so this car can get as light as 2740. But yeah, that's what the car weighs. I mean, that's what it's weighed for a few years now, and it gets heavier every time we repair it. But so really, that people want to know why I want a new chassis. People want to, because I get it all the time. People send me cars that are for sale or whatever, and it's like, well, I get it, and I appreciate people sending me that stuff, but I don't think most people understand why I want a new chassis. It's not because I just want a new one. It's not because I just don't like this one. It's because this chassis has been repaired so many times, it's a little too heavy. So like they send me a car or whatever, and it's not just, you know, 1 guy or 2 guys. I mean, there's a bunch of them that people send me cars and they're for sale, and I appreciate it. But like the cars that they're sending me, they're new, but nothing is in the right place. You know what I mean? Like the engine is too far forward, the wheelbase has been stretched. You know.
I think a lot of people also don't realize, like, when you bought this car from Marty, you redid the front, and then after MPK, or no, before MPK, we redid the rear. And so, like, but the middle section is still the original chassis from Marty. Like,
Some of it is.
Yeah, it has NHRA stamps and stuff on it.
Yeah, some of the old bars inside, some of the old chassis inside the car. Like you can see it if you look in this door. Like, so like you can see, this is from the original car, and it's from, you know, Gun Lake. It says Gun Lake Performance. Gun Lake Performance, and it says serial number 0036 PRO-MOD. 0036 Pro Mod. Date 2 of 95. 2 of 95.
Yeah, 2 or 12.
So this was the 36th, the serial number.
It says owner, M. Palbican.
Yeah, so what this means is Gun Lake Performance is the ones that originally built this chassis and I believe they're out of Michigan. The guy's name is Jeff. He actually has built some, if you look back through his history, he's built some crazy cool cars that people will, if you're a fan of Pro Mod or Steel Body Pro Mod or exhibition cars, whatever, back in the day, that, you know, if you're like Charles Carpenter and those guys, like if you remember that far back in NHRA and Pro Mod and stuff, you know, you'll recognize that guy. But this was serial number 0036. So this was the 36th full chassis car that he built. And he built this one in February of 1995 to run in Pro Modified.
The Pro Mod back then was steel body car.
Yeah, back in 95, most of your Pro Mods were steel roof and quarters. Yeah. You know, there wasn't 100 different chassis shops out there that make carbon fiber bodies like there are today. There wasn't, you know, there was only 1 or 2, 3, 4 companies that even did carbon fiberglass bodies. So like if guys wanted something that wasn't a Camaro or a Daytona or whatever, you know, or a Nova or something, then they had to build it themselves. And so they used a steel roof and quarter. And Marty Palbican, the owner of the car originally, the guy who originally had it built, he was so particular about what he liked that, you know, he had 2 of these cars. So he had a Starlight black on black 70 GTO Judge, this car.
And that's the
And
color
then,
with this color.
yeah,
That's
yeah. In order to get those
GTO
stripes,
colorway.
yeah, this is all factory color. Yeah, in order to get those stripes, it had to be a Starlight black Judge, and I believe this was a Ram R4 car. But anyway, so Marty had this car, and then his wife or his chick had a car that looked just like this. So this car that Marty built was twin turbo Pontiac, and then his chick had a car that was exactly the same matching car. I think she still has it. The same exact matching car with small tires on it, and it was twin turbo Pontiac. And like, this was in the 90s. You know, like twin turbos weren't even a thing, and he was doing it. So
What was his record? He was first.
he was, I believe he was the first to the, he may have been, I don't think he was the first to 8s, but I know he was the first to the 7s, first to the 6s.
Quarter mile.
Yeah, quarter mile. First to the 7s, first to the 6s. And he did that with cast iron Pontiac engine, Pontiac heads, like real deal original equipment. You know what I mean? No joke. And then he had a big crazy box built on the top for the intake and stuff because nobody made that stuff. And he was fuel injected back then. Like, he had done mechanical injection, carburetor, he had done it all. But so if you can look in here and you can see like anything that's black, because I don't paint my stuff, anything that's black was original. So these bars here, this bar, and then that's mine. These are his. All of that's mine.
Yeah, you can see because like the top one is black
Mm-hmm.
and then the one under it is rusty. You know.
You can see that in all of the chassis now, everything on the floor has been replaced. So underneath this, all the cross member stuff in the floor down here, all that stuff down on the bottom is all new because that's the, you know, and the frame rails on the bottom are new. And then this frame rail up top is new because it had a real massive kick out there because it was originally a clutch car. So it had a big crazy handle and everything. I still have this stuff upstairs when we took the car apart.
The whole hoop around the driver and all of the stuff back there though is.
And it was all black with blue everything else. Blue tin,
Yeah, I remember. Which is funny because
blue seat. Yeah, isn't it weird? It's so weird. Like,
they're both like the same color blue.
yeah, they were the same color blue.
Yeah. I remember because when we bought this and we opened the trailer and we saw it, you were like, I can't get away from that freaking blue.
I just can't. I don't know what it is about that. I never saw this car when we bought it. I never even looked at it. Now, I had seen it in magazines and stuff my whole life, and I'd wanted it forever. And I had hit up Marty a few times trying to buy it over the years, and he wasn't interested in selling it. And then, but yeah, when I bought the Crow Mod, it was that same electric blue, and we didn't have the money to paint it or anything, and we didn't want to tear up the beautiful paint job that was on it, so we went ahead and wrapped it white. Well, then everything inside was still blue.
Yeah.
And then this car, when we picked it up, everything in there was the same color blue. It was weird. But so people send me new cars all the time. They're like, hey, this is a new chassis, or this is a good deal, or whatever, and it's a GTO or whatever. And I get it, and I appreciate it. But the problem is that I don't just want a new one, you know, because this car works good, and it's fast, and it does its job. The only thing that the only thing I'm not happy with on this car is the weight because of all the repairs. So we had to replace the frame rails. We had to front half it twice. We've had to back half it twice, you know. So anytime you repair a car, you're sleeving tubes, you know what I mean? You're putting a tube inside of a tube, and then you're putting more welds on it, and then you're putting more gussets in it to make that part stronger. So it's just heavy. But like when you're seeing these cars, they're like, oh, well, here's a new car. And I'm like, man, I look at the car, I'm like, that's a 115-inch wheelbase car. The motor is probably 95 inches out. Like, you know, and it looks like the tubs are just over the rear deck, you know? Like, there's no way that I could race that car. Like, I couldn't even put my stuff on that car, you know what I mean? Like, all the cars that they're sending me, it's really tough. You're not gonna find a car like this, a chassis that's right, that's competitive, that was built right, for sale. Because if, you know, if it was right, you wouldn't have to sell it. So a lot of these cars that they're sending me are, I'm looking at them like, man, that'd be a good Outlaw 10.5 car. Or there's another car that someone sent me, oh, that'd be a good nostalgia, you know, whatever, Pro Stock car or whatever. But like, what I'm looking for is something that is an upgrade from this car, not just new. It could be old. You know what I mean? I don't care how old it is. It's just like, but it has to have the right measurements. You know what I mean? And it can't, if it's been repaired a bunch of times, then I don't want it, you know? And a lot of these guys are saying, well, the guy that runs this shop, he said that he would replace, he'd fix it, he'd change, he'd whatever. If you wanted to buy the car, he would move the motor wherever you need it and stuff. And it's like, you know, I appreciate it, but man, he'd have to start over.
Like starting a chassis.
But he'd have to completely start over because the main chassis bar is in the wrong place. You know what I mean? So it's like, you got to start everything over. At that point, I would go to my chassis builder and have him build me a new car. You know what I mean?
Well, the whole point of buying a chassis that's already done
is you don't have to wait for it.
You want it now.
Right.
Yeah.
But if you're going to have to modify the whole thing, then I might as well go to my chassis. I might as well go to Bickle or, you know, whoever and say, hey, you know, I mean, I've even talked to Don Dial about doing one, you know, it's just right now, you know, I don't know what I want other than the measurements, but I don't know like when I want it done by. I don't know, you know, there's a lot of stuff I'm not sure of right now. And to be honest with you, I'd really like to put a chassis under this car. You know what I mean? That would be my goal. My goal would be the end of this season or whatever, when we get some time, my goal would be to just not even think about it and just have a new chassis put under this car with everything that I want. And then that way, I don't even have to think about it. It's still the same car, you know, I don't have to worry about it. I don't have to argue with people about it. And, you know, especially you, but it's just hard for me because I'm like, oh man, this is a good running car that runs really well and it's really competitive. If I go tear everything out of it and build a new one, well, I should have just built another one next to it. But I still feel like there's a big difference in putting a chassis in this one and building another one next to it. Now that we're not thinking about trying to have to try and go 370s or 380s at MPK and then turn around and use the same car and street race with it, now that we're not worried about that anymore, you know, and you got streets here that are really good that we race out on TV, and then you got the real street stuff that's not like that. So trying to make this car do all of that, it was tough. I did it, but it was tough. Now, if I have a new chassis built, I need to think about that because it may be a street only chassis. You know what I mean? It may be a, what we're going to race only you know what I mean? Yeah. We're going to make it work for what we want to do. But the thing is, there's going to be things that I would like that changed. And so that's what we're going to do throughout this year as we go out and we hit all these crazy races and we go find all these guys and all their, you know, big bad street racers, find out where they're at and go race them on their streets. You know, we'll win some, we may lose some, I hope not, but we might lose a few. But what we'll know is by the end of this year, we'll have a really good idea of what we want out of a custom built, purpose built street race car. It's sad that I don't know what that is now. You know what I mean? I've been out of the legit street race game for so long. I don't really know what that means. You know what I mean? I don't know what you need, what is crucial, what isn't crucial. So that's what we're here to find out. So we're going to take this car because we know this car, we know how to work this car, and we know how to put it down a street. So we're going to take this car out and we're going to try and figure it out. And by the end of this year, we're either going to have a list that's very little that says you have what you need. This may be it. You know, I wouldn't just buy anything. I wouldn't just have any old guy build me a car. I wouldn't just, you know, somebody called me and said, hey, I've been building Pro Mods for 2 years and I'll build you a whole car for free. I wouldn't accept it. It's just not worth it for me. You know, I would only want to have a master, you know, chassis builder build me a car, a world-class car. That's what I want. So if I'm going to spend $110,000, might as well get it. No sense in spending 80 or even getting a free one and then having to spend 80 to fix it or whatever, have it rebuilt every year. Like, there's no point in all that. We may find out by the end of this year that we have the baddest street race car on the planet right here in our shop and we built it. Or we might find out that we have one of the baddest street race cars on the planet and we could make some changes or we could build one that's better, but that's what we're going to find out. And this is the coolest part about this whole thing is that this video wasn't even supposed to be this. This video was just supposed to be us doing this, but the coolest part about all of this is literally the first step in figuring that out. This is it. This is setting the car up to go out and do whatever it is we want to do. I mean, like I said, this car can get down to 2740 or 2720. That's 100 pounds lighter than it is right now, but I would never take that out and try and put it on the street every night and try and keep it together. That's where I'm at right now is, sure, I could take some more things out, put some more titanium in it or whatever, build a titanium wing strut and all that stuff, but at some point, the chassis is what's so heavy on this car, and there's no point in making the whole thing light, spending a bunch of money on it if it's just going to fall apart around itself. You know, I've had extremely lightweight cars. You know, the Crow Mod was 2,350 pounds or some crap when we were racing on radials. That thing literally fell apart every pass. Like the doors wouldn't stay on it, the windows wouldn't stay in it. You know what I mean? Every time you push something, it fell off or it broke or it cracked. I don't want to deal with that. It's not worth it. I want to be able to race this car and it do what I'm telling it to do every time. And the extremely lightweight cars like the Crow Mod, it did never do the same thing twice. It would flex one way one time and flex the other way the other time. So by the end of this year, we will know. You guys will know as we know. As we figure something out, then you guys will know because we'll talk about it.